Welcome to the American Small Business League podcast. I am Bruce DeTorres, and with me is Bernard Taylor, who is running for Congress in Florida's 21st District. His website is bernardtaylorforcongress.com, and Bernard is a dedicated EMT paramedic and community advocate who has spent years serving and protecting the people of Florida. Great to see you again, Bernard. How are you?
Doing very well, Bruce. Glad to be back.
So you've been campaigning for quite some time now. How do you start teaching people about who and what you are and the great things you want to do for your district?
Yeah, so for some of you who aren't aware, my name is Bernard Taylor. I'm running over here on the Treasure Coast, Florida Congressional District 21. It is still Congressional District 21, even after the gerrymandering that took place a couple weeks back here in Florida. Our district was very minorly impacted. We actually got some more Democrats and independents into the district. So it turned our district into a true battleground district. So very much looking forward to what this race has in store. I am a first responder here in my community. I've been a public servant here for about 6 years. Been campaigning for just over 13 months now. We've built some extremely positive momentum in the community. We've been able to have community events. We've been able to have community food drives, toy drives, back to school events, in school events, all these different things that have helped build trust within the community and help build our base of volunteers and people that are willing to see change here on the Treasure Coast. We're focusing on affordability. We're focusing on healthcare. We're focusing on our waterways and environments here on the Treasure Coast because those are the three main things that affect the lives of everyday Americans here on the Treasure Coast. So we're slowly but surely making inroads. We're slowly but surely impacting everybody's daily lives with conversations, and we're changing a lot of minds here on the Treasure Coast. So I feel very confident about where we are, and I feel very confident about where we're going to go.
For those who don't know what the Treasure Coast is, what is it?
So the Treasure Coast is St. Lucie County, Martin County, and North Palm Beach County. So it's right on the southeastern portion of Florida, just above those places you hear about all the time, like Miami and Fort Lauderdale.
What brought you to the decision to throw your hat in the ring and run for a seat in the Congress?
Just seeing the conditions in my community, being on that back of the ambulance, you get to see a different perspective of everyday American life. You see how some people are living below the poverty line, and you see how some people are working as hard as they can, and it just seems like they just can't get ahead. You see how our healthcare system is broken from the inside. You have overworked healthcare staff. You have not enough insurance to cover basic needs and necessities, and not enough people able to afford the insurance they need for basic needs and necessities. Volunteering in the community, working with young kids and seeing the desperation in their eyes and just the apathy of feeling like there's just no future for them because they don't feel like they'll ever be able to own a home. They don't feel like they'll ever be able to make enough money to live and survive like they want to. You know, I love fishing. I love being outdoors and seeing how over the past 30 years of conservative rule here in Florida, it seems like everything to protect our environment and protect the Florida's natural resources and ecosystem. Um, there's nothing being done about it, and we are in a state of crisis in terms of our environment. When you look at climate change, when you look at the pollution and the just carelessness that happens in our waterways when it comes to overdevelopment and pollution, and these different companies around Florida who use the lake as their dumping grounds, and is affecting not only the economy here on our coastal district, but also the healthcare, from breathing in all those toxins and things that end up in the water. So it is a lot going on that again impacted my decision to really, step up. I looked at my local leaders, my state leaders, and my federal leaders, and it just looked like nobody cared. Nobody was really making active steps for the people here in my district. So I decided to take my natural public service mindset and step up and be that person that's going to care, that's going to put all these things that are on the forefronts of people's mind, put them ahead and put them first to make sure we try to get these things done.
In your 13 months, what are the top issues you have found that you're highlighting because of how they resonate with your audiences?
Cost of living, healthcare, and the environment. Those are top three issues here. Cost of living, I would say probably 70% of the issue, whether that's, whether you're a worker, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a small business owner, the way that this economy has shaped up and all of this, the decisions that have been played out by this administration over the past year and a half have truly been a detriment to a lot of people, especially here in the state of Florida. When you look in terms of my community, not only are there a lot of small businesses, but there are a lot of retirees in my community. So they are living on a fixed income and they're seeing their fixed income not stretch as far as it did even just a year and a half ago. So all these different things that are impacting everybody's everyday wallet. Like I said, that's probably about 75% of what's on everybody's mind. And if we don't do something soon, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be struggling a whole lot worse than they already are.
Can you see specific things you'll propose to address that? Or is it the type of problem that depends on you getting there and then collaborating with all the other power, people and forces that affect a congressman? How do you look at that?
No, it's definitely going to take a collaborative effort. Nothing can get done, especially when you have an executive branch that is on the opposite side of the aisle as you, that has veto power. So I can want to come in and change the world and do everything as great as I want to. But as long as somebody has the power to say, no, we're not going to do that. We
Hmm.
don't have that veto proof majority in the House. We don't have that veto proof majority in the Senate. It's going to take a collaborative effort and it's going to get a lot of people on the same page in terms of like, hey, this is what people are struggling with. They're struggling with living. They're struggling with being able to afford to live. They're struggling with, that American dream that you were selling them, that they can be entrepreneurs and start businesses and be able to thrive. There are a lot of people that aren't thriving. There are a lot of people that aren't necessarily adhering to that dream that you promised them because you're making it more difficult for them. And if we don't start to elect people that hear us down here that are trying to get our little piece of the pie, we're going to continue to be unheard. We're going to continue to be screaming at the wall to people who aren't listening. So it's going to take people like myself and others coming into this system that want to collaborate and work together to solve these issues.
Describe a little more fully all your career experience and skills and perspective that would be great for folks to know. Like, then he's the man for me.
Oh, so when you work in public service, you have to learn how to collaborate, especially in the fire service. You never know who you're going to work with when your crew. You're talking about coming together with people from all walks of life and different backgrounds, different religions, political beliefs, etc. You're talking about coming together to achieve a common goal, which is to protect life and to protect property. And it's the same thing when you're talking about being a representative, when you're talking about representing people's best interests. It's not necessarily what you think is best all the time when you represent almost a million people. It takes that collaborative effort, talking with people in the district, talking with people that you represent to figure out what is going to be the best solution, to be able to explain your point of view in order to persuade people that your point of view might be the best, and also being able to hear other points of view that might be better than yours. You're not going to know everything. I don't ever claim to know everything. I always tell them I'm not the sharpest tool in the shit, but I'm one that can work. So I can get the job done, and I'm willing to listen and be educated and hear new perspectives because maybe it might open my eyes to something that I didn't think about in terms of any problem that may arise. I think skills like that, I think being a part of a union, being part of the IAFF Local 2928, learning how to legislation actually works and gets passed, and learning how to navigate policy and navigate politicians in terms of trying to get things accomplished for your union and for the people that you represent. It very much relates and it very much translates into being an actual legislature because you learn how the policy gets made, you learn the process, whether that's filing legislation, getting your legislation through the subcommittee, going from a subcommittee to the actual floor, getting a floor vote taken on your legislation, and even when that gets passed, it has to go to the Senate, and then getting that through a subcommittee, and then getting that to the floor. It is an entire process that you have to be able to negotiate. You have to be able to have conversations. You have to be able to persuade people. And I think my career experience, being able to have those conversations, talking with people from all different backgrounds, being in the back of the ambulance and being able to have conversations with anybody because you just you just never know who you're going to run into. All those skills that I've picked up, I think, will be tremendously helpful as I start to navigate these waters to get things done for the people here in my district.
What a little bit more about you and then questions about how the race is going and about your district. What else, if anything, about your education or your personal life demonstrates you are a great representative, if not typical, but a great representative of the people in your district?
So yeah, besides my career in public service, where I put my life on the line for the people's here in my district, I've also done a lot of volunteer work in the community. We work with a lot of young people, helping them having them navigate life and putting them on a path for success. I work with an organization called Geared Up for Fire, and it's basically educating young people who never even thought the fire service could be a choice for them, helping them learn about the fire service, helping them learn about the benefits of being a firefighter, helping them learn what it takes to be a firefighter, and also putting them on that path. I'm proud to say that I'm responsible for 21 fire careers over the course of my 6 years in this thing, just helping mentor younger people and getting them on that path. And that's probably the best thing that I've done, and the best thing that gives me the most joy is being able to help others and put others on the path to success. We did a food drive around Thanksgiving when the government shutdown was happening, and you had so many people in food insecurity, not knowing what was going to happen, and being able to provide Thanksgiving dinner for over 100 families. That's probably something that brought me the most joy I've ever felt in my life, being able to do for others. And I think that what makes me, and that what separates me from any other person that's running in this race, whether that's in the primary or in the general. I get more joy out of others being successful and happy than I get for my own success and happiness. And maybe that makes me crazy. I think it's a good quality to have when you care more about others and the prospects of them being better and the prospects of them succeeding. I think it's a great quality that's going to help you be a great representative.
Well, that sounds like the golden rule to me. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that throughout history is how it works. That has demonstrated its reality and the sanity of approaching life like that. Would you repeat the name of that organization where you mentored new firefighters?
Sure, it's called Geared Up for Fire.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you
In
run into any Florida locals, young kids that you might know that need a little guidance, send them my way, man.
Wow, nice. And talk about your district. What have you seen? What have you learned? What has moved you about the people and the wants and the needs of your district?
So I can honestly say, like over the past year that I've been doing this, I've seen a lot of change in my district in terms of the people and their beliefs and how they're looking at things. This district overwhelmingly voted for the current administration. The last race was 270,000 to about 140,000 in terms of my current incumbent congressman winning. So it was not close at all. So looking from then in 2024 to where it is now, the amount of flags that have come down in the district, the amount of things that I don't see anymore in terms of paraphernalia riding around, and in terms of people just outright with their support of everything that is going on, it has been dramatically different. I have a lot of conservatives that reach out to me and want to have conversations with me and literally want to know what my platforms are, because they are truly considering like voting across the aisle for the first time in like a decade. And I'm going into these spaces that aren't necessarily friendly spaces, but I'm going into these spaces and they are embracing me. They're hearing what I want to do, and they're hearing my story and things like that. And I'm always leaving with like, well, you've earned our vote, or you're definitely somebody that I would vote for. And I can't say that I would have been able to do that a year ago. But I think with everything going on and all the revelations across this past year of things that were promised that just typically didn't come out and didn't work out for people, I think a lot of people are starting to open up to, we just need to be finding out who's going to be the best candidate for us. We can't necessarily be caught up in, what letter is associated with a candidate. We need to start being informed about the people that represent us and who's actually going to look out for the best interest of the people here in our district. So there are a lot of people that are willing to be more open-minded. There are a lot of people that are willing to listen, and a lot of people that are actually willing to consider voting for the best candidate as opposed to just voting for whoever represents their party. So I can't, again, that has been the hugest change for me. Um, I get a lot of support from all, like I say, all walks of life, and I think I don't think anybody expected that. So I think we're going to shock a lot of people when the time comes.
Nice. Um, you mentioned the primary. What do you want people in your district to know about the primary? And tell me, how are you approaching that? Who are you opposing, and when is your primary?
So first thing you need to know about Florida is closed primaries. So you have to be registered with that party in order to participate in the primary. So for all my independents and NPAs out there that support me, I need you to switch over to Democrat real quick, and then you can change right back after the primaries is over. Otherwise, you won't be able to pick the candidate you want to represent you going up against the incumbent in November. So that's the first thing we need to know. Second thing, our primary date is August 18th. So we have one of the later primaries in the country. So we still are about 3 months away from our actual primary election. So we still got a lot of runway that needs to be crossed before we get to that date. The last day to register to vote, not to vote in the primary is July 20th. So you want to make sure if you're not registered, make sure you're registered before July 20th. And again, make sure you register as a Democrat so you can participate in the Democratic primary. Again, once the primary is over, you can switch back. If you don't ever plan on running for office, it doesn't matter how many times you switch parties. um, right now there are three people that are still running for the Democratic nomination, including myself, and there are two others. Our filing date is on June 8th. So that is the day you have to put pen to paper that you're going to be on the ballot. So we are keeping our fingers crossed that maybe that some people decide they don't want to be on the ballot anymore. So best case scenario, I'm the only one that files, and then we don't have to have a primary. Worst case scenario, there'll be a three-way race for this primary, in which the best person win.
And the what do you emphasize when you invite people to go to bernardtaylorforcongress.com? Is there any particular thing you want them to look at most?
I really want you to look at my policy proposals. I heard a lot through the media and podcasts and on the internet during, VP Harris's campaign that she never had any policies. She never had any policies. And while that is not a true statement, because if you go to her website, she did have things that she wanted to do. I wanted to make sure when I started this campaign that that was not something that someone could say about me. So not only did I put my policy proposals on there, I actually put written out legislative proposals, what I wanted to do and how they could get done, how we can fund them, the time it would take to implement them. I went into great detail to explain what I would want to do if elected. Not saying it is the end all be all, not saying it is the best idea or the best plan, but I wanted to make sure that when people looked at my campaign, they knew I was serious about what I was trying to do. I wasn't going to give you a bunch of talking points. I wanted to actually have a plan for them so you can either agree with it, you can challenge it, you can disagree with it, but at least you couldn't say that, hey, do you even have a plan? So if you don't do nothing else, when you go to my website, go to my policy platforms, read my plans for the 5 things that I would love to get passed if I can get them passed in Congress. And then let me know what you think. Like I say, I don't mind being wrong. I've been wrong a lot of my life. So if you think I'm wrong, if you think, some changes need to be made after you review the website, please let me know.
Well, yes, and anyone with any experience succeeding at anything knows how we have to collaborate with others. And
Yes.
what a great starting point it is for you to publicize these and post these things, because as you just invited feedback from viewers, great. That'll help you improve these things. And
Mm-hmm.
assuming you win and now you go to Congress, we all know your district knows Bernard's bringing these things. Now you got to pull the taffy with everybody else and collaborate with their solutions that they're all coming from all over the country with their bag of solutions. And at least we know you're going prepared, like Santa Claus with his bag of stuff. Hey, at least I'm bringing stuff we can talk about
Absolutely.
and work with. That's fantastic. Um, Tell me your thoughts and feelings, convictions and questions, et cetera, about small businesses to kind of groom it into my field. Thank you. Small businesses.
Absolutely. Small businesses are the backbone of our country. You hear that a lot going across the campaign trail from many different candidates. But It truly is the backbone of our country, man. Everybody is trying to get that entrepreneurial spirit. Everyone wants that piece of the American dream, not have to work for anybody to be able to build something from the ground up. And we want to make sure as many people have access to that American dream, have access to that small business mindset and that small business life. The problem is, unfortunately, over the past year and a half, we've seen an attack on small businesses from this current administration in terms of whom they're attacking as far as business owners and the amount of people that they've put out of business over the past year and a half with some of their policies. So we definitely need to make sure that we are actually catering to our small businesses and not catering to these large corporations that are trying to have a monopoly on every industry in America.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you know from our previous conversations, we are nothing but a small business nation. That's why truly they are the backbone, because 99.9% of all businesses in America are small businesses. And I invite folks to go to our site, asbl.com, to see our particular issue, complaint, what have you, that the vast majority of contracts that we are told go to small businesses don't. They go to the largest corporations. They are already big. They don't create new jobs with those contracts, whereas true small businesses would create hundreds of thousands, possibly up to 2 million extra new jobs every year on top of the new jobs that small businesses create anyway. It would be an economic boom, and it's an outrageous, for decades, problem that giant corporations have such embedded relationships and trade personnel with all the different federal agencies that report to the SBA. Hey, all of these are small business awards that we gave to these contracts. And the SBA says, oh, yes, they are. Thank you very much. We met the goal. 23% of all federal contract dollars supposed to go to small businesses. No, they don't. And then furthermore, you know about our Don't Cheat Women project, where we want to raise from 5% to 15% the goal that that many federal contract dollars go to women-owned small businesses. It's a joke right now to be a 5% goal, because women own 40% of all businesses in America, and they sell what the government buys. But right now, in every year of our lives, companies owned by men have gotten more than 95% of all federal contract dollars. But wait, it's worse. I don't know if you saw my email. I think it was yesterday, Bernard. There's a new bill in the House and the Senate to abolish the Minority Business Administration, the minority goal, and the 5% goal to women, abolish the women owned small business program. And we are raising a hue and cry. And we've published on our Substack yesterday, May 14th. Go look at it, everybody. asbl.substack.com. The contact information of many in Congress and the Senate that you, everyone, could and should call and say, we oppose these bills. We show you the bills for these reasons, and we give you the reasons. I'm taking a breath. I'm going to stop yelling and ask your thoughts about all that.
No, no, absolutely. No, don't ever feel like you don't deserve to be as outraged as you should be about this, man, because again, those numbers are absolutely staggering. But that's kind of been the design of this administration to be an attack on minority owned businesses, to attack, women owned businesses, to attack the quote unquote DEI aspect of the government. It's been by design to make sure that these businesses and these people were under attack, and they're trying to do everything they can to remove those, so that 95% turns into 100% of all these small business contracts are going to predominantly white males in our country, which again, it shouldn't be that way, especially when you have 40% of women who own all businesses, when you have a lot of minority businesses across this country that, if they just had some simple investment, if they got their fair share, that 23% of those government contracts that should actually go to them, the amount of good that they could do in terms of job creation and the amount of good that would do in these communities across the country with that job creation, boosting those local economies, it would be a boom, like you say, for every one of us. But again, it takes people like myself, and it takes people across this country who genuinely want to help the small business community, the entire small business community, and not just a select few corporations and few demographics in terms of who they want to give this money to. So yeah, I completely agree. We need to make sure we're yelling at all of our senators, our congresspeople, our local and state officials as well. You as a constituent, if you don't know this, every call that a congressperson or a representative gets, every one call equals 50 people. So if you can get 25 people to call, that is a 5 alarm fire to an elected official. So we need to make sure we're bringing this stuff to their attention. Make sure that they are aware that we are aware of what is going on. Because if we don't make us think about it, they won't address it, and they'll just let things be status quo. Um, what's the quote that my granddad always said?
The squeaky
Oh,
wheel.
yeah, squeaky wheel gets the oil. That's right. So, hey, y'all better get out here and start squeaking.
And they don't get nearly enough. Less than 10% of Americans in a given year ever contact a representative at any level of the government about anything. Less than 10%. So, can you imagine if everyone on social media who is mouthing off with all kinds of sarcastic and clever complaints about this, that, or the other thing, the odds are they haven't lifted a finger with a phone call or an email to their congressperson, to their senator. So that's why we encourage everybody. We gave everybody the phone numbers in our ASBL.substack on May 14th. It says save minority owned and women owned small businesses. That's the name of the article. Bernard, I've enjoyed this. What final words? What would you remind? Tell us your website again, and no rush, but your final thoughts. What would you emphasize right here?
Well, thank you guys, Bruce. It's always a pleasure having these conversations with you, brother. If you want to know more about my campaign, if you want to sign up to volunteer, if you want to contribute, please visit bernardtaylorforcongress.com. bernardtaylorforcongress.com. I will leave you with this. Like we've spoken about, small businesses are the backbone of this country. We can't let small businesses fall by the wayside, and we can't let them be underfunded, and we cannot let them be taken advantage of. We need to elect candidates, and we need to elect people, especially working class and small business owners, who understand these problems, who understand what the everyday average American is going through, and the help that is required in order to make us successful. The more people we have down here at the bottom and in the middle in these seats of power, the better country we can have for all of us and not just the top 1%. So make your voices heard. Get out there, squeak, squeak, squeak. Get off the internet and go call your representatives.
Well, that was fantastic, Bernard. Hang on. After I stop the recording for a second, I want to thank you very much for your time and wish you the best in the hard work it is in the arena in which you're competing. Thank you. And I want to thank everybody for watching and listening today.